Right, you say migration should be stopped, and I agree with you. But there's an argument for saying we should reduce the population. Not drastically, I'll explain why. In 1990, the population was 57 million. It's now 67. That's official figures. But no government since then has put a plan in place for how we're going to service 10 million more people in terms of hospitals, water, power, the police, education. So in another 10, 15 years, if we get another 10 million, the problem with the country is not that services are broken, it's the services are designed for a population of around 55 million, and we're now over 65. And no government, I've heard any of them, have a Marshall Plan, as it were, for how many power stations we're going to build over the next 20 years for the needs of those people, how many houses, how many reservoirs, how many more teachers and policemen will need to train, how many more schools. They just imagine that we're going to cope.
And Steve, you've absolutely hit the nail on the head, because if you bring in another 1.2 million people, which is about the size of Birmingham, into the country in 1 year, but you're only building a couple of 100,000, you've no extra doctors or hospital beds, the quality of life for all of us goes down. And you're absolutely right. It's perfectly reasonable. You could say, right, I'm Prime Minister, we're going to have a national conversation and debate over the next 6 months about whether or not in the next 15 years we should increase the population by 6, 7, 8 million folk. And if we agree that, after that debate, then goodness me, we've got to plan the infrastructure and the public services to make sure it all works. That's a reasonable thing to consider. You may not decide to do it, but that's what you should do, isn't it?
It is, but the successive governments focus on the numbers. And the reason that people get annoyed with migration is not that foreigners are coming to the country, is that they see their services diminishing.
Yes.
Because they're overloaded. And what happens is you blame the immigrants. Oh, it's all because the immigrants. It's not. It's because successive governments haven't. We spent billions on HS2. HS2 doesn't provide homes, healthcare and education for people coming to the country. The money we spent on that, we could have spent on schools, teachers, hospitals, training, education, power stations. But we've not spent, we've not even got a plan in place to build these things. And they take 10, 20 years to build a power station or to build a hospital. And I don't see any party with a plan for building anything. And I just think, well...
and therefore, inevitably, things are going to get worse. And actually, if you bring in low-cost, low-skilled immigration, you're not actually adding value to the nation. And now, at least the chair of the OBR has admitted, per head, our GDP is not going up at all. In fact, and therefore, if you've got more people after the same quantity of public service provision, your quality of life mathematically will get worse.
Yeah, and the other thing, Richard, just quickly, with net migration is the amount of people coming and leaving, but if the people leaving are high-value individuals with education, but the people coming in have a low education and a low cost to the economy, actually it's like the brain drain.
Yes.
I want to know, all these people that are leaving, what are they? Are they doctors, intelligent lawyers, solicitors, IT? Are they all leaving?
It'll be a blend, Steve, but it's a really important point. Someone else actually, I think, messaged it in. I didn't read it out earlier, but it is an important point you make. We know that it's a competitive world out there. Countries like Australia, they're short of doctors. They're trying to attract our doctors and healthcare professionals. And if people, if highly qualified people are leaving and we're bringing in lower skilled people, you're absolutely right. There is a shift in the balance. I want great people in the UK, well trained. I don't want people sitting on the dole, and I want things to get better, not worse. Steve, great call.